Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Omar Roman, and I'm one of the council members for Farmers Branch in District 1. I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize a few individuals that are here with us tonight. We have Mayor Glancy from Farmers Branch. We also have Council Member Richard Jackson, Farmers Branch District 4. We also have David Merritt from District 5 here in Farmers Branch. And I believe those are all the elected officials here tonight. I also wanted to thank the Farmers Branch Police Department, CFB-ISD, the Farmers Branch Fire Department, Dallas College at Brookhaven, and the U.S. Department of Justice for working together to make this presentation happen. When I first heard about the fentanyl issue, members of the community had reached out to me. Naturally, they had questions and concerns about what this drug is, what it looked like, how to recognize the signs of someone taking that drug, and how to combat this as a community. And those questions continued. This presentation is the product of those questions and concerns, and I feel confident that we will be able to address those and other questions tonight. In a time like this, when the safety of our children is of top concern, know that we are paying attention, we care, and we are here to help. And again, thank you for being here tonight. And I want to turn this presentation over to Officer Rutherford, but before we do that, I also wanted to provide similar remarks in Spanish. We also will have a Spanish translator available to those who might require that tonight. Buenas noches y gracias todos por estar aquí. Me llamo Omar Roman y soy un miembro del Consejo Municipal de Farmers Branch, Distrito 1. Quiero aprovechar esta oportunidad para reconocer algunas personas que están aquí en la audiencia. Alcalde Bill Glancy, también Richard Jackson del Consejo Municipal y David Merritt del Consejo Municipal, de aquí de Farmers Branch. También quiero agradecer el Departamento de Policía de Farmers Branch, a CFB-ISD, el Departamento de Bomberos de Farmers Branch, el Colegio de Dallas en Brookhaven y el Departamento de Justicia de los Estados Unidos por trabajar juntos para hacer realidad esta presentación. Cuando ocurrió el primer problema de fentanilo, los miembros de la comunidad se comunicaron conmigo. Naturalmente tenían preguntas sobre qué es esta droga, cómo se identifica, cómo vamos a reconocer los signos de cuando alguien toma esta droga y cómo vamos a combatir esto como una comunidad. Las preguntas siguieron. Esta presentación es el producto de esas preguntas y estoy seguro de que podremos responder estas preguntas y otras. En un momento como este, donde la seguridad de nuestros niños es una preocupación, quiero que sepan que estamos poniendo atención, nos preocupamos y estamos aquí para ofrecer ayuda. Una vez más, gracias por estar aquí y pasaré la presentación al oficial Rutherford.
Good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Hey, it's great to have all you guys out here this evening as we talk about a serious topic. We talk about the drug fentanyl. We hear it in the media. We hear the term fentanyl, and we hear that it's bad for you. So tonight, we're going to educate ourselves a little bit on this. We're going to learn about the dangers of this drug. And after the presentation, we'll be open to questions and answers. So think about your questions. And we've got several community partners in the room. Again, I'm Officer Steve Rutherford. I am the Crime Prevention Specialist of the Farmers Branch Police Department. Some of our community partners joining us this evening. From the city of Farmers Branch, we have our city manager, Ben Williamson, joining us. We've also got Deputy City Manager Mike Mashburn. From the police department, we have our Chief of Police, Kevin McCoy, Assistant Chief Jay Siegel, Assistant Chief Eric Stokes. We have Lieutenant Demorse of our Criminal Investigation Division, Sergeant Sikorsky of our Special Investigation Division, and our School Resource Officer, Officer De La Paz. From the Farmers Branch Fire Department, we have Chief Daniel Latimer. With Chief Latimer this evening, Assistant Chief Langford, Assistant Chief Tadier, and Captain Tony Evans. Representing the Brookhaven College, or the Dallas College Police Department, Brookhaven campus, we have Sergeant Luis Hernandez. The Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District's also represented here this evening. We have Superintendent Dr. Wendy Eldridge and Associate Superintendent Brian Mawarish. We're also joined by licensed district chemical dependency counselors. This evening, we're blessed to have our guest speaker and presenter from the Drug Enforcement Administration, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, has been with the DEA for 25 years. I'd like to introduce you to Agent Baker.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, my name is Guy Baker. I'm an Assistant Special Agent in Charge for the Drug Enforcement Administration here in Dallas. The Dallas Field Division covers all of the North Texas area. We have offices in West Texas, all the way up through Oklahoma City and east out toward Tyler. We are a federal law enforcement agency. We're a part of the Department of Justice. We're tasked with enforcing the Controlled Substances Act of the United States. So what does that encompass? It encompasses a lot of things. Our primary responsibility is to target criminal organizations that are responsible for the distribution of illicit drug substances, fentanyl being one of them. Fentanyl is not, it is a controlled substance. There is a legitimate medical use for fentanyl, and we'll get into that in just a bit. Our primary responsibility is to target those people that are responsible for the distribution of drugs, target their organizations, and bring those people to justice in the U.S. district courts. Here in our district in North Texas, we have two different judicial districts. We have the Northern District of Texas, we have the Eastern District of Texas. We work equally with both of those U.S. attorneys' offices, and we try and keep them as busy as possible. We do that through a number of resources that we have available to us. Part of that is our task force officer program. Through our task force officer program, we deputize state and local law enforcement officers to come to our office every day and work with us hand in hand. We take their resources that they have, we take the information that they have, their data, we combine it with information and data that we have. And that's how we try and build out these organizations and target those responsible, and in this case, for distribution of fentanyl. So fentanyl has obviously become one of the most threatening aspects of our job today. There's things that we do today that we've never done before in our lives. We've never had to carry Narcan on our duty gear to protect us from this particular drug. We typically don't do overdose death investigations. We're doing that today. When you pick up the phone and call 911 to get some medical assistance for somebody that's been poisoned, you're not going to get a DEA agent respond. That's where we work with our state and local counterparts to assist them when they reach out to us and say, hey, we've had some poisonings in the area, we've had overdose deaths in the area. Do you have resources available to us? And that's where we'll work with our partners to go out and assist them with these investigations. So we're also very fortunate here in North Texas that we have one of 7, how many labs? 9 labs? We have one of the 9 labs that DEA runs here in Dallas. It's right next to our building. So when we have a rash of overdose poisonings, if we're able to recover substances, we're able to get it to our lab. We're able to confirm right away that there's fentanyl in a particular substance. Fentanyl, primarily in our area, is showing up in fake pills, and these pills are typically some type of an oxycodone. They're pressed here locally. They're pressed in Mexico. And we can get into that a little bit. I don't want to take away a lot of Jerry's thunder. We'll talk about what they look like, how they're being made, where they're coming from, and what we're doing to address the problem with fentanyl. So, as I said, we're very fortunate here. Jerry Walker is our regional lab director, He's going to come up and speak with y'all about fentanyl.
Jerry, I've been doing analyzing drugs for 31 years and experienced everything. I started in the DC, Baltimore area and came out here. So PCP, LSD, all the different methamphetamines and everything you can encounter over the years. Fentanyl is by far the worst thing that you've ever had to deal with. There's just really nothing to it. So, we'll tell you a little bit about the last just minutes for a couple seconds, and then I'll get into the fentanyl and just kind of walk you through the story about what it is and why it's so dangerous, and it's really happening out there on the streets with everything. So, can everybody hear me here? If I just kind of sit here and wander around a little bit, you guys? Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we've got laboratories around the country. Just a real quick picture for this: so New York, DC, Miami, Chicago, Dallas, and a couple in California. We have a digital lab, and we're going to have a new lab in New Hampshire, and that's basically being funded through a senator because of fentanyl. Because fentanyl is a bigger issue in the Northeast that has got some funding for us to get a lab that's going to focus on that. So what do we do at the DEA laboratory? There's four things. So we're the CSI guys, right? So that's what we end up doing. So we analyze dope. It's not a controlled substance until we decide what it is. We put it in our instruments and tell you whether it's fentanyl, meth, coke, heroin, whatever happens. That's what our job is. We testify to it, and we go out in the field with the agent, with their making dope, methamphetamine, or pressing pills, or doing.
So we are live streaming.
Ooh,
So you're
okay.
going to use this microphone so we can pick you up on the broadcast.
All right. Thank you very much. Very awkward. Never had one of these before, so we'll see how that goes. So help me out. Where was I? Analyze dope. Yes, thank you very much. All right, so what we do. And then what we testify, so we go to court and we go through it as expert witnesses, and then we do a lot of training. So we're out and a lot with the agents. We're nerdy chemists, so we know the chemistry. They want us to go out there and make it safe. So, and then we just help make everything become evidence in what we do. All right, so we're going to start with the whole story of opium, right? Because this is part of where we are, right? So opium's been around. So Papaver somniferum is the plant. It's the poppy plant. How they make heroin, where morphine came from, is they get fields of these plants. They go through with a razor blade and they slice it. It oozes. So then someone comes around later and they collect the ooze that's dripping out of the plant. So you can do that 2 or 3 times per poppy, and you scoop all of that up and you get it. And what's in that goo that's coming out of the plant is morphine. There's codeine in there as well, but morphine is what the main part of it is. So a little bit of a timeline that we go through. So the plant's been here forever. Somewhere in the 1800s, they actually realized that morphine is the compound that is the opioid, right? The opiate that has the effect on the body. It's been used over the years because it takes away the pain, right? So with wars and different battles and people getting hurt, it actually has a medical use that we all do. I had both of my knees replaced. My little morphine thing was invaluable, right? So I get it. So morphine is important for the science. Heroin, so the scientific name for heroin is diacetylmorphine. So all you do is for that last structure I had on there is I can just put some acetic anhydride in there and turn it into heroin. So Bayer is the company that first made heroin out there in the world. If you keep on going, that's basically the taxing. So back in the early 1900s, they started taxing all the controlled substances. Vietnam War, there was a lot more of the use because most of the opiate and most of the poppies were grown in Asia. So there was a closer access, a nexus to be able to get to it. Some false information that's out there about the addictive nature of it. Then what happened was in around 1995, OxyContin was introduced. So oxycodone being the drug that was put out there. So 2 things happened at the same time. So not only was the oxycodone put out there with the pills, the pain chart showed up, right? So now when you go to the doctors, you get to see the chart whether or not, where are you on that? I just kind of question whether or not what what came first, or why did that all happen at the same time? Because then what happened was a huge overprescribing of the opiates, right? And that's been in the news for a long time. So in those 2000s, there was pill mills and all the doctors doing everything inappropriately, what they were doing. And so there became a societal problem with overprescribing it. So they made stronger versions of it. They tried to make different versions of it, and they kept kind of to control it in different ways. But nothing matters. Just the addiction rates from opiates has just continually increased from the beginning of time all the way up until where we are today, all right? So now let's enter fentanyl, right? So there's your background of just kind of where the opiates and where that starts. So this guy, Dr. Jansen, was the guy that first made it and first invented it, if you will. And what he did was put it into the IV. So fentanyl has lots of medical uses, right? It's a pain management tool. You can have lozenges, lollipops that have fentanyl in it at small levels. You got the patches that you can put on, right, that it goes through to be able to do it. And a lot of times, if you have simple surgical procedures, fentanyl is the drug that they use to knock you out, right, to make you unconscious. So it is medically used daily everywhere. The patch up there has got a C2, so it's a Schedule 2. So Schedule 2 means it's got a medical use that goes with it, but it's legal and it's a controlled substance all at the same time. But it's citrate. So if you look at it, the chemistry name of it is fentanyl citrate, right? And that's very different. So everything that you have for the citrate is where the medicinal use of it is. So my first cases I got a long time ago when I was back on the bench was the patches. So people would steal the patches and either try to chew on them for a while, or they would stick them in ethanol and try to dissolve it out and try to get the fentanyl out of those patches, because there's 7 milligrams in each of those patches. It's just how they're made to deliver it to you. It's in a safe manner, so you don't overdose. Again, so what happened with all the fentanyl, right? So it was made in the 60, and then all the patches that started getting made, because people really quickly realized how powerful and how effective fentanyl was on the body to use it. So the Chinese syndicate started getting into it in the early 70s. Then locally in the United States, people started being able to figure out how to do it. If I do this class sometimes and I can fill 4 or 6 hours, but this is a guy that was a self-taught organic chemist, and he was making fentanyl, and there's a huge story that goes on with him, but he was distributing it all across the country, and it was killing people. So back in the 90s, there was a China white scare that was going on with a lot of people that were dying from fentanyl that was either mixed in heroin or it was instead of heroin. And it ended up being because of this guy, and he was just doing it for the money, and that's what it is. So originally it was mixed in heroin, and then it really kind of gets to where we were. So in this part of the country, it was around 2019. We're a little bit later. So like 2017 areas when other parts of the country started experiencing the issue, right? It was just a little bit late coming to Texas to get to the pills. But you can look at those, right? Those are legitimate oxycodone pills, and the question is which are fake and which are real, right? I mean, this is a trick question because we have the real ones are a little bit chewed up there, so you can't really tell. But again, it's the tablets that are the issue. So where has the lab and what we receive as evidence changed over the years? So 5 years ago, all the fentanyl that we would get everywhere was about 3.5% of the evidence that we received or we analyzed. And there's about 56, but that was about a 15 or 16 month period of time. So the data on the back is just a little 3-month snippet, and it's changed to about 20% of what we receive now is fentanyl. Because I mean, we still get a lot of methamphetamine, we still get a lot of cocaine, we still get a lot of heroin, but the amount of fentanyl that we've received is just continually going up. And I got a couple of simple charts that demonstrates that as we go. So one of the interesting trends that we're seeing is as fentanyl goes up, the amount of heroin is going down, right? So there's a common sense connection that you can make there. And I got another graph that kind of goes into some of this one, right? So these are just the graphs that are showing. So this one is a 20-year graph, just showing the green dots for many, many years was just baseline, a little bit here or there that was happening was probably just being diverted pharmaceuticals to where we are now, where it's just spiked, right? And the data is a little bit on the older side, but the trends are continuing. So every one of these that I'm showing you with fentanyl going up is going up for those last couple of years too, on the same path. Alprazolam and oxycodones, that's basically flat, basically maintained. All right, so we get to what is fentanyl? So there's the structure. So in my world, that means a lot, right? So it's a 3D molecule that ends up fitting in your different opiate receptors, and it does what it does in the body and creates what it is. But it's very powerful. So it's 100 times more powerful than morphine. That's where it all gets to, right? So in your body, that's how strong it is with how much that you need for it. So I got props. Let me pass these around. This is not fentanyl, this is sugar. Go ahead, just pass it around to each row. Just go ahead and pass it around. This is 2 milligrams of sugar. But I have another slide. This is way better than a slide I have. What's in that is the lethal dose of fentanyl. That's how much that goes for that one. But all fentanyl is a white powder. Labs, we like the metric system. So when you talk about grams and milligrams and micrograms, you just divide by 1,000 to see how much you need to have. So 2 milligrams is what's in each of those vials. All right, so I need one more person. Who can read something small? Because I can't read this anymore. How's your eyes? So in the bottom left, that's just a pack of Splenda. How many grams? There should be a weight on it. So 2.0 grams. So in this sugar packet, or Truvia, because it's not sugar, whatever my wife puts in her tea, 1,000 lethal dose tablets could be made from this one packet. All right. So again, just as a visual demonstration, better than what's up there is that's how powerful this compound is in your body. You don't need very much to be able to have the effect that it does. And that's why I passed those around. So why fentanyl? It's an opiate. It works in all the opiate receptors. So it works like every other opiate that you're going to take into your body. One of the things I think that why it's so addictive, and the issue with fentanyl is it takes such a little bit to have such a big effect on your body. But what happens in your body is your body metabolizes it extremely quickly, faster than most of the other opioids. So you get a very small amount that goes in to get you to the point of high and setting off all of your dopamine receptors, and then it goes away really fast. So you get this V kind of action in your body. And that's part of what goes in. Now this gets a little bit outside my expertise, but with my research, that's kind of part of the problems with it. So just what fentanyl does, we've worked with Parkland a little bit. We're doing some overdoses, and we've got some videos of some kids filming their buddies overdosing, and all these symptoms are what you see, and it's pretty devastating when you watch that happen, right? Obviously, the most easy is to pinpoint pupils is really the indicator, I think, for someone that's on the opiates. But why? So what's at the heart of this? Like, it's money, right? They just want to make money. That's what it is. All right, so if I have 1 kilogram of fentanyl, I can make, if I put 2 milligrams in it, which isn't going to be on this chart, I can make 500,000 tablets. So if I just make a 1.5 milligram tablet, I can make 600,000 tablets. And if each of those goes on the street for $10, that's $6 million. So now the question becomes, where's the profit come from? How much is a kilo of fentanyl? I can't remember. I'm going to get close. Well, a few years ago when it started, it was $700. Now it's like $5,000. Is that approximate? Between $3,000 and $5,000 for 1 kilo. So a $3,000 or $5,000 investment gets you to millions, right? It's all about the money. So what's it look like at the lab? So fentanyl's a white powder, right, when it comes in. So we get it by the kilo. and just some examples of different packaging and different parts of what it looks like. Each individual brick is enough to theoretically kill 500,000 people, right? And so real size, these are probably like that. We get them smuggled in, we get them in tires, we get them in boxes, we get all kinds of different. Each of the ones on the bottom left probably weigh about 5 kilos each. So each of those is about can make 2.5 million pills equivalents, right? So it's not that much material can make so much pills that are out there. We get it in all kinds of different forms, right? So black tar, if you guys never seen black tar, this is basically what it looks like. And there's no heroin in this one. It was just fentanyl made to look like black tar heroin. We get them in gummies in different shades. There's a Gray Death is out there. The Gray Death is more of a mixture of different kinds of fentanyls or some other drugs that are pretty powerful. And then there's other things that get mixed into it, right? So, some of the stories that you'll hear is it's a white powder. So in Galveston, they had a bunch of kids that were found dead. The problem is they thought they were buying little baggies of cocaine that they were doing, so they would snort the cocaine, and then they just died because it wasn't cocaine, it was fentanyl, because you can't tell. And then there are other compounds that are mixed into it, and it's a white powder that can go into anything. So they have nasal sprays. So all you have to do is you can put it in any liquid and be able to do it because it dissolves very easily into different things. So it just shows up in every form. But the thing that really matters for us is the pills. So our territory has all of Texas and New Mexico. So we get evidence from Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol, FBI, everything on the border. It all comes to our lab for analysis. So we get a lot of evidence that comes from the border. Besides this, just up here in North Texas area. So we see a bunch of things, but the thing is still just the pills that are out there. The one thing that has shifted on this one is that as we do more and more data, we have a special testing laboratory and we do lots of research on fentanyl to try to keep up with it, that we're finding now that it's 6 in 10 actually have a lethal dose of fentanyl that goes into that program that comes out with that one. But we put out, we've been on this and trying to put out as much of information that we is. But this is what it's all about, right? For us, it's the tablets and the pills. So the M30s are just, we have literally millions and millions and millions of them. So they come in different kinds of bags. The one on the left is about probably 2,000 pills. We had an exhibit the other day. We had 500,000 tablets in one pill, right? So it's basically if I put a tub about this big and this big, it's just all just blue M30 pills into it, right? And we just have hundreds of cases. We probably do 60 cases a week of fentanyl tablets that are out there. So the one on the right, so it's called Chasing the Dragon. We just did some research that you can actually smoke the fentanyl. So if you take a tablet, you put it on there and they light it and they just kind of smoke it as it moves across the sheet and gets it into you. But it's just not M30s, right? It just depends. They can press it into whatever it is, right? This gets back to my last slide, is you never take any pill that's not out there that you don't know where it's coming from. We had aspirin pills that had fentanyl in it, so it just doesn't matter. One of the newer things we have is just a rainbow. So at this point, no one's even trying to pretend, right? Because they're blue. The real legitimates are blues. They're just making these rainbow pills, so there's no doubt that it's a oops. This is just, hey, here's a fentanyl pill that's out there. No difference in the colors. We've researched all of these, and they're just the same concentration, same amount of fentanyl, they just colored, and then, of course, they speckle. You have different things that they come in. You get speckled pills, too. And just get them by the thousands. So what's it look like out when we're doing it? So he's talking about when we go out for us, it's the clandestine labs that we go help. So this is one of the earlier ones that we had. And so on the left is just they were mixing and messing around with the fentanyl. And then on the right is where the dead body was found because they had overdosed themselves when they were just processing the fentanyl. So we take it very seriously, right? It kills people. So when we go out and we have to deal with it in the field, we make sure we do different kinds of levels of protection. So for me, I got to make sure my chemists are as safe as possible. So there's something called level B and level A protection. So these guys are just in level B of going in, and there's some decon and cleaning up what's going on. But when there's an active lab and there's fentanyl all over the place, like I'll show you, like we go in level A. So level A is you got your self-breathing tanks inside of your bunny suit to make sure that everything is protected and everything is safe for that one. So again, just some examples of what our guys do out in the field to have to deal with this in the different sets. Not too often do we find the organic chemist that's making the fentanyl. Usually they already have it, and then they're just pressing the pills. But we do encounter chemicals. We do have guys that are trying to make the drugs all the time. Again, this is why the chemists need to be out there to go help. But then just some examples of what we find: garages, houses, rooms, closets. It doesn't matter what they're doing. They have different kinds of powders, different kinds of binding. A lot of times they'll mix it with lactose, the fentanyl with the lactose, and put the binders in so they can start pressing the pills and start cranking them out. Sometimes you'll get the case, like the one on the right, like you can still see that it was imported from China to where it is. Fortunately, I have a guy at work that speaks and reads Chinese, so he can interpret some of these for us. So it gives us a little bit of good information of where it's coming. But it's the presses and the mixers and the tools, right? And as you can see, for all of these, it's a mess. So all these are just examples of how they go out there and different pill presses and different ways that they're mixing it and trying to crank out the pills. You got hand cranks, and you got some that can just do a pill a second, right? The real high tech ones are they just crank through the pills. They have the hoppers, they fill it with the powder, they make the mix right. And the problem is, if you don't make that mix right, that's how you get the hot pills, right? Because they're all over the place. These guys don't have very good QC, right? They're not a pharmaceutical company. You don't really know what the heck is going on when they're making it. And again, just some more examples, and just when they're doing this, it's just all over the place what they're doing. So the dyes, so each of those pill presses, when they hit it down, right, this is what they do. So they go and they collect the dyes. The other word slips my mind. So they just put those in there and they just crank them down there. So they do the Breaking Bad guy. They can make, again, as they can get their hand on any dye for any legitimate tablet, they can make it that easy. All they got to do is put it in, put it out, and just start cranking pills. And pills, it's just that easy. So they have to you got to get the fentanyl, you got to get the mixture, and they do all that, and then that's what happens. And that's what's happening. Right? All of those pill presses are all in North Texas. You want to add something? No, go ahead. Right? So, and then, so what happens with so chocolate chip cookies is our thing. So if you make a batch of chocolate chip cookies, how do you make sure that every cookie has the same exact number of chocolate chips into it? Right? You can't, right? Some are really good and have extra ones. Some kind of straggling, don't have very much into it. They don't have a whole lot of QC, right? So that's the thing. So you can get, even though on average, I showed you what those numbers are, an individual batch of pills could be really messed up, or even a few pills in a batch can be even more. So if 2 milligrams are a lethal dose, then some of the pills that we have up to 7 to 8 milligrams in them, right? And because it's the chocolate chip cookie, you just can't make it prevalent. Guy, am I over time already? So again, there's lots of legitimate pharmaceuticals. When my guys are analyzing it, the top one's kind of an easy one, right? The M's not so good, the 30's on the wrong side of the line, right? So my guys kind of can know that's a fake pretty easy off the top, right? So we'll be able to do that kind of just part of our testing as we go through. Because there are legitimate ones out there. Like I said, average, how much is in each of the tablets that we're seeing. We have a fentanyl profiling program that our special testing lab does. So we're just collecting data and collecting data and collecting data. And again, the one on the right is the old one, that 44% had a lethal dose. And now that's up higher because that was just a little bit older. Real interesting, more trends. So this is kind of what's coming up. The green on the top one is methamphetamine. So the trend seems to be there's more and more methamphetamine that we're seizing out there and seeing. The bottom one's a very interesting one. The green is the heroin. So as you can kind of see, what happened is as the green moved along, heroin was more and more available and used, and then it's not now with fentanyl taking over, right? So there's some rationalizations of why the heroin also started creeping up from the early 200s, to 2017. But it's pretty obvious why it's going back, because our other data shows that there's less heroin and there's more fentanyl that's going on with that one. So it's scary. So fentanyl is just a compound, and you can turn it into different things that are more powerful, right? So these are the different analogs that we see in the laboratory that we've encountered. But the potential is 1,400 different analogs of fentanyl that they could make out there. So some of these are really, really, really nasty. So for example, take carfentanil. Carfentanil is 100 times more powerful than fentanyl, which was 100 times more powerful than morphine, right? So it's used as a large animal tranquilizer because such a little amount will kill anything else that it does. Well, here's the problem. So I tried to put it smaller than a speck, but I don't know, it's a bad thing to put the little black dot up there. We have fentanyl powder and we have fentanyl pills that we receive in the laboratory that we analyze. So they are putting carfentanil into some of the tablets that are out there. And for obvious reasons, that's just as even more dangerous as possible. Just new stuff in the news. We're part of all the areas. We still research and look at the nitazines or new compounds that are out there that we're looking at. Same thing, they have lots of analogs in different parts they can do. They were all temporarily controlled. And of course, there's also the xylazine that's being mixed. It's in the news even today that's going out there. So this stuff is so dangerous. So what we do in the laboratory, right, we analyze dope. We have kilos and kilos and kilos of it. But we have to do things differently because we don't know now. Because fentanyl is a white powder. Most of what we get is a white powder. So we got to make sure we're safe, right? So we treat everything as the most dangerous compound that there is, right? You can't fear it because we have to analyze it, what our job is, but you have to respect it. You have to be smart with it. So I make sure everyone's got all the PPE that they can get, right? People are walking around just completely bundled up. And I make sure that everybody has Narcan at their desk. So I could have every chemist working on a fentanyl exhibit at the same time. So I just buy Narcan. It's the easiest investment for me to make for everybody that's out there. And fortunately, none of the chemists here have done it, but we've had a couple chemists drop in other labs around the country and to Narcan them. So again, just really the lessons that we've learned over the time is to try to get the word out. Like when my daughter goes to college, I didn't have the alcohol conversation. I had the don't take a pill conversation. When my son comes over with all of his friends to the house, because he's a sophomore, his dad gives him the don't do it, take the pill lecture, right? Like that's all they get. So we put out the word, right? And that's all we can do is make sure that everybody is part of it. The laboratory division, what we try to do is just put its awareness, right? How bad, what this thing is, how bad it is, and just try to get the kids to be smart and then just share the stories. At some point we can get these out. We've done some videos in the laboratory that have been made some news. You can go track down and be able to do it. And then I'll kind of leave this last one. If you all want to take a picture of this one, I'll leave it up while we kind of close out. This has a lot of resources through DEA and so if you just do that QRG code, it will get you to a place that will get you a lot of resources regarding fentanyl that's out there. And so with that, I need my samples back. But outside of that, thank you very much. Any questions? But thank you, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Scott?
There's so much stuff on social media today about fentanyl, and you don't get social media, or social media is where a lot of this, a lot of the youth are getting involved with taking pills, and they're meeting a lot of people online. Their friends are meeting someone online, grabbing some pills. We can't stress enough that this, as this slide says, one pill can kill. One pill can kill is what DEA is trying to get out. When people go online, purchase a substance, it may be purported to be an M30, a legitimate M30 that somebody diverted from a medicine cabinet or from their friends stole it from a friend's house, and they're purporting it to be a legitimate M30, and they don't know whether it is or not. So they're passing that on or selling it to another individual. And as Jerry said, last year or a year ago, 4 out of the 10 pills that were being tested in our labs were coming back with a lethal dose of fentanyl. Last year, 2022, it increased from 4 to 6. So there's no quality control in how these pills are being pressed. A lot of times, as the slides and pictures showed, it's being done in a garage somewhere. It's being done in a motel room. A pill press is not an illegal item. It's a regulated item. So someone can have a legitimate pill press. They can obtain dyes that make it look like a Xanax bar or an M30. They can purchase those online through a social media website or the dark web. Obtain these dyes, obtain the kilo of fentanyl from typically fentanyl is being shipped into the United States, into Mexico from China or India. Obtain that fentanyl and bringing it here and setting up a lab in a garage. And there is no quality control there like there is at a legitimate pharmaceutical manufacturing company. But social media is the biggest, for parents and schools, and I know we have school resource officers here. They can maybe speak to what they're seeing in the schools. But parents need to monitor and have real life conversations with their kids or their loved ones about what they're doing online and who they're talking to online. And that's part of the message that we're trying to get out is be involved in what your kids are being involved in online. Man, Jerry there were so many great photos. Are there any other questions about some of the photos or something that Jerry might?
How do you guys dispose of it in an environmentally safe fashion?
So you want to take that? I mean, we do drug burns quite often.
Yeah, so when we go and destroy it, we put it in a fire that's so hot that just turns it into ash. So the answer is we burn it, but it's so hot that it's like hotter, like the cremation is even hotter, right? So that's how it stays safe. It just becomes nothing, just carbon and oxygen. Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So these little ones, these middle school and the high schoolers that are getting them, are they getting them mainly through mail order, or are they getting sent? Are they getting them dealt in schools, after school, back in the alley? I mean, how much do they cost?
So in our investigations, we're seeing, and Chief, there is a school resource officer? You want to come up and chat? So our investigations, a lot of this is a friend of a friend, somebody that I've met, going to a party after school, Friday nights, after a football game. It's typically just being able to hook up with somebody that knows somebody. These pills in our investigations, we've bought them originally when we started seeing fentanyl here locally, we were spending between $3 and $5 per pill. We've bought pills for $1. Typically, when we're buying them in our investigations, we're buying larger quantities, 500 to 1,000 at a time. So that's what we're seeing there. But it's the quantities of fentanyl that are coming over. There were some pictures that Jerry showed earlier where how they're packaging them, getting them across the border. They may be in tires, concealed inside wheels of vehicles. The standard trafficking and delivery routes that we've historically seen with, say, cocaine coming into the United States from Colombia. It takes routes up through Central America into Mexico and then across the border into the United States. Same methods that we're seeing with fentanyl. Fentanyl is typically being processed in laboratories in Mexico. These are jungle labs. Again, no quality control, no chemists there like Jerry and his personnel. These are our cartel members. We're aware of who's manufacturing them. It's the Sinaloa cartel. CJ&G. They're doing it for money. They're making millions of dollars on these pills. So we know who we're targeting. We know they have associates in the Dallas, North Texas area, and we're targeting those organizations. But do you want to speak to the what you're seeing in schools?
Special agent here is correct. Before I was a school resource officer, I worked narcotics. And I got to see the larger part, like you're saying, where it comes in. But when it comes down to the lower level dealers, everything's being published on social media, Instagram, Snapchat. You can get anything on there. A pill, an M30 pill, you can get it for $10. That's the typical price that they're putting them on social media. Like he says, I recommend to all the parents that have teenage kids or just kids in general, all the parents at the schools that I have, I recommend that they don't allow their kids to have these social media sites. If they do, then monitor those sites because you can get anything on there. Just like we did when I was working narcotics. That's where we went to get the drugs, to bust these guys that are getting it from bigger sources. So that is where they're getting it.
We have some people from our school here, school leadership. Would any of you like to get up and talk about what situation that you're seeing in the school itself and how we can help with that?
Hi, I'm Jo Gillen with the great school district of Carrollton Farmers Branch. And I'll share with you that what our school resource officer shared is completely accurate. Students can order this on social media and it can be delivered to their front door. So what I want to say to you as parents, as grandparents, as community members, eyes and ears, watch what your students are doing, ask them where they're going, find out about their social media accounts, their cell phone codes so that you can watch their cell phones. You are the parent. I often say you are the CEO of your home. And so as parents, you need to be watching and listening. Peer pressure is very real. And many students that have come out of this pandemic, they feel alone, they feel anxious, and so they're turning to this as a coping mechanism. What we in the school district are doing is teaching them other ways to cope. We're working on this. We are educating our students. Everyone, 6th through 12th grade, has had 2 presentations. One is a PowerPoint where we had massive amounts of teachers and counselors there to support the students. And the other has been a video, and it's called Dead on Arrival. It's very intense, but it's good, and our students are listening. I feel good about what we're doing in the school district, but I know many of you, it's scary, and you can't even believe that kids can order this on social media and it's delivered to their front door. But I'm telling you, it's the truth.
Yeah, and when you go on social media and you start seeing what your kids are seeing, if you go to this website, DEA.gov, you'll find a number of resources available to you. There's social media guides on there that will help you identify some of these emojis and icons that you might be seeing on your kids' cell phones or computers, and those emojis will kind of correlate to what they might be talking about. Did you have a question, sir? Good. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'm confused. What is the purpose of taking this pill? Is it to make you more? Is it a pain pill?
Most of these are they're opiates. They're pain pills. Jerry had a slide up there that talked about the opiate epidemic of 2000. Back in early 2000s, pill mills were popping up everywhere. People were grabbing as many opiate pills as they could and started abusing those pills. It's a pain medication, so it's going to make them feel euphoric. It's going to lower their respirations, and when they start abusing these, or when they start taking these pills over and over again, they develop a tolerance, and as that tolerance builds, they need something else to replace that to get that high and that euphoria. So that's. So that's what we're talking about. There's no quality control in that one pill. So just as Jerry was talking about the cookie that's being made, you don't know if there's 15 chocolate chips in there or there's 2. Those that eat that cookie with 2, they potentially may not die or be poisoned by it. If there's 15 in there, the potential goes up. Yes, sir.
Okay, I know because of quality control and all that kind of stuff, but are there any kind of symptoms that parents or others might notice before things get too dramatic? And also, we've seen many TV shows where Narcan is used. It's so dramatic and all, but what's the real world of Narcan? And, you know, when's too late? And, you know, how many doses do you have to do? Maybe this is all.
No, and maybe the fire department wants to answer to some of that. Those who, Chief?
So my name's Terry Evans. I'm the EMS captain for the City of Farmers Branch. So for Narcan, this is what our typical drug that we use to counteract the opioids. So as the receptors come in, Narcan blocks those receptors in your nerves, and it prevents your body to actually receive and feel the effects of whatever opiates or pills or whatever they're taking. So it's a counteractive. And so that's why it's so effective of using Narcan. But as these gentlemen were saying, depending on how many chocolate chips you get on there, you have to have more Narcan to counter that many more chocolate chips. And so we're seeing here where you're having to use more Narcan and more Narcan. So luckily for the City of Farmers Branch, we use our medical direction is through Best EMS. We've got a contract just got signed. Been working hand in hand with the police department here with Chief Stokes to get a contract to get them trained, and then we can start ordering Narcan for all PD officers that can go across the city. So whenever there is a chance that somebody might be overdosing on some type of medication, either PD will get there first or the fire department, and we can quickly counteract that medication.
So in one of the last talks that I was at, somebody asked can you do more harm with Narcan? You're not going to harm anybody by giving them multiple doses of Narcan.
So people are overdosing, they're dying as it is. So you're not going to overdose them on Narcan if they're already overdosing. So you don't know because, like they said, this is not a controlled substance that we know how much is in effect. So we follow protocols, and so like our minimum dose that we're going to give is either 2 milligrams of Narcan through intranasal, or we're going to go 4 to 8 milligrams through IV. If that is not seen any effect for bringing up their breathing, because that's what's really drives them dying, is takes out their respiratory drive and they start dying. Yes, sir. So that's just for our protocol. So every medical, they might have something different, but for us, that's what we give. So IV, you're looking for 8 milligrams every 2 to 3 minutes. So we give the dose. We check on their, we're constantly monitoring their vitals, so their heart rate, blood pressure, all that. And so if we see an effect and their respiratory drive is picking back up, their oxygen saturations, the oxygen in the blood level, that starts going up, then we just monitor and we take them into the hospital. We don't want to completely wake them up because they could get very agitated and very combative, or they start getting very nauseous and start throwing up, and that still worry about their airway. And so you just want to bring it up just enough to bring up their oxygen as we get there. So that's why we start kind of a low dose. In 2 minutes we give a little bit more because we've seen it where we've given some, and some patients are very, very combative.
Now, what's the first symptom that you are responding to if there is a general?
It can be wide variation. So we can get there and they're saying, I don't feel so good. I'm nauseous. They can't stand up, or they're slurring their speech, or they're falling down. And so we'll look at their pupils. You'll see what they're saying, pinpoint pupils. Respiratory drives real slow, and their oxygen saturations are starting to go down. So we'll get an IV and start pushing Narcan, and we'll just monitor the oxygen saturation and the breathing, and as we transport them to the hospital.
So fentanyl last year was the leading cause of death for Americans 18 to 45. We had over 107,000 deaths caused by fentanyl poisoning and overdoses. So it's our primary threat. We're seeing it in every community here. We're targeting the people that we believe are responsible for it. And we're working with our state and local partners every day. And again, we're very fortunate to have Jerry in the lab next door to be able to give us real-time information about what we're dealing with. And like I said, we're seeing the increase in the number of pills that are being tested that have the potential fatal amount of fentanyl in them.
With some of your parents too, they've always told me if their friends start changing, their study habits start changing, some of these things are indicators that you better start looking and seeing what's going on with it. Because, you know, their involvement today with social media, they get so much of this stuff through that. And so folks, this is a really serious problem. We need to deal with this. You know, we're in a high growth area right now. North Texas is the fastest growing area in the United States today. These people distributing drugs aren't stupid. They send them into prosperous markets. That's where they focus a lot of the stuff that goes on. You've seen all the cases with many of our cities. You know, you go to Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, up the East Coast, all these places where people have come in and infused a lot of drugs into the market. And it's a terrible thing. I mean, I want to challenge you with some homework tonight. When you go home, get on your social media, and you bring up the drug problem in Philadelphia and Kensington Avenue. And that's the epitome of what this ends up being in many cases. You'll see zombie after zombie standing on the streets. And this is terrible for our country. And, you know, there's people in the world that really don't wish us well. And, you know, and when you look at that, think about that if you were a foreign leader of China or somewhere saying what about America? Is that representative of America? You know, there's not a video of you folks, 99% of you get up in the morning, prepare breakfast for your children, both of you go to work. That's not an interesting video. That's what most of us are doing. But a lot of the representation of what's representing America today is these kind of videos and things of America. If America falls, it's going to be through that kind of a process, not through military overtaking of us. And so I think this is stuff we all got to think about and try to do our best here to make sure this doesn't happen. You know, we can push up law enforcement and doing all that, but we've got to have your support here with this type of thing, because there's only so much we can do. And, you know, it's not easy calling on your children and doing all that. But in the long run, I think that's a whole lot better situation than what can be down at the end of the road in the result of this. So, anything else, gentlemen?
Any questions?
Please come out forward.
I know tonight's point really is about fentanyl, but being in the school district, I think it's very important for the parents to also know about THC. THC is something that comes across my desk every single day. THC is coming in our schools, also not only obviously with marijuana, but it's coming in gummy bears. It's coming in vapes. THC, any amount of THC that a student carries is a felony. Any amount, even a trace amount. So we're seeing a big increase in that. So I want you to also have that as something in the back of your head is notice what your kids are eating. We've had this as low as the elementary grades because kids think they're eating a gummy bear because it comes in a gummy bear form. In a package that says gummy bears on it. You can buy it at a store. But it is, when these kids eat it, they think nothing happens to them, so they eat another one. And then they eat another one. And then all of a sudden, they're showing some signs of throwing up and overdosing on THC. And we're seeing that from elementary to high school. Vapes. Kids are smoking vapes. And a lot of these things, we've seen where parents have purchased these vapes for kids, but they don't know there's THC in them. So it's extremely important. Fentanyl is killing our kids, absolutely, and we have had a very quick and rapid response to that as a district and working with our law enforcement officers and agencies. But THC is something that you should also be well aware of because it has many forms, whether it's a vape, whether it's a gummy bear, whether it's a bar. It's extremely dangerous for our kids, and it is a felony, no matter how much they have.
Good, thank you.
Is fentanyl as addictive as heroin? Yeah, and how many of the kids are actually addicted to opiates that are actually looking for them and consuming them?
Way outside my lane, I'm not really sure for some of those, except that I would say that the fentanyl is going to be more addictive.
It's more addictive.
Yes. Sir, I think he had his hand up for a second.
This is a question for someone from the school district. Do we have Narcan now in all of the middle schools and high schools?
Yes, we have Narcan in every facility in our district, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, even just other facilities, some of our centers. We do have Narcan at every campus. Secondary campuses, we have up to 8 doses of Narcan. So we were very proactive. When we heard the first loss of life in the community due to fentanyl, we worked with Mr. Mersch and Senator Leak in our district. We were able to purchase and get some Narcan. But we have it at every campus, every facility.
Narcan is also available over the counter. It recently became available, so it's available for purchase at any of the local drugstores, or it will be once they get the supply in. And there's also many resources available from various substance abuse facilities in the area. They have it available as well.
I basically had the same question, but also, is it in the private schools also, or is it just in the public school system?
I'm not aware of that.
I'm sure several were.
Sir, did you have a question?
Has there been an uptake in the last couple of years?
Oh, yes, sir. Fentanyl's been in this area. I mean, you can probably answer that better than I can.
So around here, around 2019 is when we were really started seeing the first pills and fentanyl showing up. You have to remember, Dallas, there's a lot of highways that come through Dallas, so there's a lot of things that were seized and transferred to other parts of the country. But for the pills that were around here, 19 is when it really started, and it's been growing every single year. So my data goes back to the 21, but our follow-up data each year continues it to rise. So it's not stopping.
DEA had an investigation here that originated here in Dallas, but we found the source of supply was in Houston. That case started around late 2017. We concluded that case around 2019. Well over 1 million pills that we had seized during the operation. And again, it was a pill press operation, and this one was in a storage unit. And so that's where we really saw a huge increase in 2019 of the number of pills that we were seizing. This way.
Hi, I was listening to a radio show today, and they were saying that the fentanyl that has the xylazine in it, that the Narcan doesn't work on that. Is that true?
I can't answer that necessarily, Jerry. Do you want to stab at it?
I actually read something that came across, there's a bulletin that came across today. So the Narcan does not work on xylazine, but it does work on the fentanyl, right? So the xylazine is a non-opiate tranquilizer, right?
So in some cases of our paramedics responding to calls throughout the area, we have seen where a normal dose that we normally send.
So we're using the microphone so the people who are watching the live stream, or the broadcast can hear. So the people who are watching from home need to hear through these microphones.
So to answer your question, how much Narcan have we seen? Do we need to give more? In some cases, in some of the patients that we're seeing, we're giving double and triple the amount of Narcan. Like I mentioned earlier, about every 2-3 minutes, we give another dose, see how their breathing is. It's increasing, oxygen sats are increasing, and we stop giving the dose. But yes, depending on how much they take, or if they, whatever the case may be, we're seeing a higher dose that we're having to give.
Any more questions?
Yeah, this lady was.
I have a question. So can fentanyl be sprinkled over like gummy bears instead of, like, so y'all have seen only like the fentanyl on pills, but could it be also be on such like gummy bears and things like that, like edibles?
For me, yes, that's one of the scariest things that it is. So it's a white powder, right? It can be basically mixed into anything and everything. So, we haven't seen it yet, but for me personally, as the lab director, that's one of my biggest fears that's out there. They could put it in liquid samples and then put that on whatever. We haven't seen it. We don't have any exhibits of that, but the potential is there.
You have any other questions, guys?
Yeah, mine's just an observation. I feel like this event was very poorly promoted. And that's just my opinion. And I feel like this place would have been overwhelmed with more attention to the problem. Because I tried to tell my neighbors, I got 2 of them with me tonight, I drove them over here. No gun was involved. And I just wondered, would you guys come back again? Is it a problem to schedule you to come back if we?
Happy to. This is kind of what we do. Like, it's fentanyl awareness. What DEA wants to do is put out the word, right, for awareness. So if we can save one life, then we'll come out here every night that there is if we can make a difference. That's simple.
Again, there's a number of resources.
There are a number of resources available also, and this is just one website, DEA.gov. There's multiple substance abuse organizations out there, and you'll find those on this website as well. So the resources are there, the information is there. There's live data trackers on our website that shows seizure amounts and where it's being seized and what DEA is doing about the.
A lot of times, I first noticed this one when there were about 5 deaths in the Carrollton Farmers Branch school district. And, I just wanted, let's find out more before we get to that as parents or, we have grandkids or whatever. And so that's the reason that I was excited to come to this, and I just wish there were more here, as you do, Bill. Okay.
Question back here. Let me bring the mic back to you so everybody can hear your question.
Hi, I'm an aunt, and I have had these conversations with my nephew since he was about 7. He is now wanting to be an educator in Texas Tech right now to try to help give back, etc. But I was raised basically by a single mother, and I'm going to tell you something, nothing got past my mama. And if I told her I was at work, I guarantee you she saw my time card. She saw my paycheck. And nowadays y'all have it easier than she did because you've got that 360 on the phone, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all are going to have to be and I don't want to say the word to make y'all feel bad, but the police officers of your kids. Because they're not only hurting themselves, they're hurting each other, and they're hurting this community. And we all have to do our part. If you see a bunch of kids hanging out, call it in. I don't care if they're just saying, hey, or fixing to pick teams for basketball. Call it in. Thank you.
Thank you. Put this back here.
So what exactly are the dealers saying to the kids to entice them to sell it in the schools? What do they promise them? Is it all about money?
You're talking about a dealer talking to a kid. This is their friend talking to them. This is their buddy at school. They're not going to one location to find a dealer to sell them something. They're typically getting this from someone that they know, who got it from somebody that they know, who knows the dealer. So there's no one place that somebody's going to go to get fentanyl. They're going to get it from their friends. They're going to find it online. The typical ways that if somebody wants to find some substance that they want to ingest, they're going to find somebody who knows who to get it from. So I don't. Certainly, there's financial incentive for the dealer, and that's why fentanyl is the big problem that it is today, and that's why cartels sitting in Durango, Mexico, want to supply us with as much fentanyl as they can because they're making money off of it.
Yes, I just wanted to introduce our two LCDC counselors with the school district. LCDC stands for Licensed Chemical Dependency Counselors. This is Heidi Whitehill and Monica Bellin. And they will answer any questions. They have so much knowledge, and they've been a wonderful help in the school district to our students and families. You can email them with questions, call them with questions at any time. Our district is open and in service to you as a community. So please ask those questions. Thank you.
One comment that they'd like to make.
Okay, absolutely.
Hi. I agree a lot with the information of parents have to be involved. A lot of times when we talk to students and they say, we kind of ask them, like, what opened the door? What were some of the contributing factors to this? And they just say, I was curious. I heard about, I wanted to try. Or the high was really, really good, because it's a really intense, very quick high. And then once they start coming down, they have the withdrawal. They feel nauseous, they feel achy, they're just really uncomfortable. Again, heroin-like withdrawals. And so they will use the drug again and again to not feel those. And so that's how the cycle of addiction starts. Students will normally say that they'll use about a pill in a week. So they'll have a pill, and they'll just break it up a little bit at a time. And they're not swallowing the pill. They're snorting the pill. They will put a bump on their thumb and snort it. They will take straws and snort it. They will break open a pen and snort it. So I think our police officers and our security officers at our campuses and the teachers, everybody is keeping an eye open. Everybody's watching. People can't fall asleep in class anymore because of the fear that we have that somebody could be overdosing. And so we are just trying to keep them safe. Again, we've done the presentations. We held parent informational presentations back in the fall, and we had it again in the spring. And so we are trying. And I agree with you. I wish there was more people here. But we are trying everything that we can to educate not only the students and the kids, but also their families.
Okay. Thank you for all you're doing for us.
If they had Narcan in public schools. So like, for example, they said they didn't have any like Narcan at private schools. So for example, like Mary Magdalene School, is that still considered part of the CFB district? No.
And I'm not sure what they're doing. We don't know for sure.
Okay, I would just have to ask.
Our officers might have some interaction with them and tell you about that. With Mary Magdalene, any of that?
I do not know right off.
Okay, thank you.
My boss's daughter goes to Greenville and they have it. So that's why I don't know.
Well, we want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know, we're preaching to the choir here probably, but get the word out to your neighbors and people in the community because this is a serious problem and we really need to do everything we can to reduce young people's exposure and anybody's exposure to drugs. No. With that, gentlemen, is there anything else you'd like to conclude? Jeff, do you have anything?
understand how people can buy this stuff on social media, but if it's being delivered, can we not prosecute people delivering?
So we're prosecuting people for delivering it all the time. I mean, that's where our investigations come into. We're working with the state and local prosecutors. We're working with the United States Attorney's Office. We're seeking prosecutions. We're getting prosecutions. When there's a poisoning that leads to a death, we're trying to get enhanced penalties attached to that. So these investigations take a little bit of time. Overdose investigations start very small. Usually there's a person who's overdosed. Law enforcement's response to an overdose has evolved with this emerging threat of fentanyl. We're looking at more evidence. We're trying to gather additional evidence that maybe we've missed in the past. We're looking at social media. If the person that was poisoned had some type of device with them, we're trying to look at that device to see if we can pinpoint where they received the fentanyl pill from, and then we're working up the organization from there. So the distributors is who we're targeting, and we're doing that through our state and local partners. We're working every day toward that end.
Okay, well, again, thank you all for coming.
Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you.